Ooh. Welcome back to Gear Reviews. Today we're going to show you how you can melt snow on a camp stove and what the ratio is. So we've got our Emberlit titanium fire ant stove here. It does have the optional burn plate, but we're not going to use that today. Today we're going to be using wood. So let's just assemble our stove. Just going to get the panels ready. Three side walls. Our burn plate. And the main front door. I'll just torque it there. So. And we have a camp stove with the addition of the air grate, which I find helps the performance significantly. So we're going to start off just by putting some paper into the base of our stove. With a little bit of sawdust here too. We had some recent construction projects around the place, so we can get some of that used up as well. Not too much so we don't want to choke out the fire. Next, we're going to light this thing. A little bit breezy today. Once we get going, we should be set. I'll throw a few tinders up there as well. And while that's warming up, we're going to be using my Snow Peak Trek 700mm pot/stove cup. It works pretty darn good. So we're also going to fill this up with some snow. There, so we just kind of scooped it, fill our cup, and then just give a few shakes. I did do this previously when it was about -14, and we got about 7:1 ratio. This stuff's starting to melt a little bit. It's about +5 today, so we'll see what we get. We should get a better ratio from our snow. As you can see, the stove is working quite well. I'm going to throw some more wood in there. You can really find any of this stuff just kind of laying around the forest anywhere. All nicely pre-cut. So this is spruce we're burning, so it will obviously add a little bit more soot to our pots. I do find the stove works quite good if we just kind of throw down a few. Find the stove works quite well if we do get a few larger pieces, and just right in these corners. Also, when you're adding fuel, you don't want to add too much at any one given time. You can just kind of let it warm up and just let it process what it has. It seems to be quite happy with that. But it's fairly warm today, so everything's starting to ignite pretty good. The good thing with this stove is that we do have the capacity to submit some larger items here. Alright, so there's our cup. I think we're going to throw that on now. Put your handles away from the prevailing winds so they won't get as smoky or the flames will come up and lick those handles on you. Hear that crackle. As we can see, our snow is starting to melt a little bit there. It's pretty dense stuff, so the last time we had this boat full right up to the brim. It's kind of lighter, fluffier snow, and we got right down to, we only got about from the bottom of the cup right to that bottom 200 milliliters, or maybe even a little bit less. So it was about 1 to 7 ratio, so that's not the greatest. Actually, it was about 4 ounces there, right there on that line. So it's not a good yield with light fluffy snow. As we can see, our snow is sinking down a bit. Still pretty solid. Still pretty solid snow. Just keep feeding this thing. I do find that the raised grate also helps raise the fire up a bit, so when the wind blows it doesn't shoot flames out of the side holes. Instead they go right up to the bottom of your pot. I think that's kind of nice, for a nice feature, even if you're just fiddling beside the fire when you get a sudden gust of wind. Yeah, just like that. Oh, and that dropped down a good solid inch there. Let's check out. And I guess if we did want it to melt a little bit faster, we could always add the lid as well. Keep some of that heat in. This is a strainer lid on this, so if you had some noodles or something that you wanted to strain, it's very handy for that. Our fire's doing well. Again, using all this softwood here, we're going to be generating a little bit more soot in our pot, but we can just wrap it up in a bag whenever we're done with it, and we put it back in our knapsack or away for storage. So a little bit of soot on our wood burning stove doesn't really matter. This here is dedicated to this, so it's not really being used for anything else. And when you're camping, a little bit of soot's to be expected. Oh yeah, that's really dropping down now. You can see, if you look closely, you can see the snow changing color a bit as it gets more saturated. Put that lid back on. You can just throw all kinds of wood in there, and that stove will just take it. It was a pretty cool little stove. It did take me a few times to get the hang of it, and if you do have some issues keeping it going, or if maybe the fire dies on you, try that little grate I threw in there, because I found that to be a significant improvement. Although I do still enjoy the full burn plate on the bottom, so coals are not dropping through the bottom of the stove. You'll still want to be mindful where you place this thing, because it will still singe the ground underneath, just with the sheer heat output. So as we can see here, it does shoot out flames to the side, but mostly when the wind blows, all that fire goes right up to the bottom of your pot, and that's with the addition of my little wire grate there. So that stove fire is getting hot, and it is just frying everything in there. See how our water's doing. Our snow. And look at that, it's pretty much right up to the water line. So that is looking good. See some of our measurements. So we're almost at about 12 ounces right now. Yeah. So it's down on that line. Hard, just you can barely see it there, but we're just at about 12 ounces. And this is fairly dense and thick snow. Got a little bit more melting to go. Just a little bit more melting. We can see we're starting to get a few bubbles down there. So we've got the titanium pot and the titanium stove, so these things do heat up fairly quick. Yeah. But they also cool down pretty quick too, which is, I think, is kind of nice for if you're eating out of this thing or you're drinking a hot beverage. I like to drink it a little bit sooner than later, so I enjoy the cool down quickness. This stove here cools down in a matter of seconds too. If you dump the coals out or whatever's remaining into the campsite fire pit, this thing will cool down in a matter of seconds, so you can put it away immediately. Although one thing one thing to watch out for when you're using kind of these front loader stoves is that you just want to make sure that any wood or burning sticks don't fall out. So and burn the ground. It's kind of when I use this thing out somewhere. I just got like a little aluminum tray here, and I'll just set the stove right on this, And then out front there, anything that does fall out there will just be on this metal, and it won't burn anything. Let's see how we're doing. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Let's go get our... Let's see how we did. So this is about 28 ounces. Yeah, and we're just under 12. And we'll be just under 12 ounces by the time that melts. So that's not bad. So that's just about under half, or about one. So that is very, very damp and wet snow. Alright, so I think we're actually just going to boil this now. And we got a little side episode, or a little bonus feature here. We got the Light My Fire spork with knife on the fork. Stir that around a bit. Yeah, we got a little bit of ash in there, but that's just camp flavor. All right, we're gonna let that boil. Restoke that fire. And don't forget to restoke your stove. These little twig stoves do require pretty much constant stoking. And they spring back to life pretty quick. We can even throw a couple smaller sticks just in that these top poles, if your bottom is full. Look at those flames. Just check our pot here. Look at that thing. That is one hot stove. Check our water here. Take a little while for that water to heat up. I find with a decent flame, this stove is usually good for maybe about 5 or 8 minutes to, say, boil water at about the 600 millimeter mark. And we do have a little bit of room, so if we ever, instead of having the pot, and since our pot is a little bit wider than the stove, and because our pot is a little bit wider than the stove, if the flames seem to be moving towards one side or the other, we can reposition it a little bit off to the side just to kind of lift those flames a little bit more on the bottom of the pot, but usually we just have it in the center for stability. And again, it is a nice balmy +5 day here, so everything is burning quite easily and quite nice. But even on days like that, -14, when I took this out for the first snow test for the 7-to-1 ratio I received, it was still pretty good to keep going once it was lit. As you can see with twig stoves, they're not 100% clean. You do get a lot of ash here and there, but to be expected. So it's starting to smoke in there. Yeah, with this pot here, the little clasps, they do work well, but sometimes it is a little bit tricky to get them on there. Kind of if you set it on top, it's a bit tricky, but if you kind of slant it, hook them like that. So if we slant it, we're gonna hook them like that, and then we lower. Oh, make sure you hook them both though. Slant it, hook them both, and then lower the lid. I find if you slant, hook, and lower the lid, it tends to catch a little bit easier than just setting it on top to keep that lid nice and rigid on there. Down here, we're cooking fine. And down in there, we're getting some nice bubbles forming. So, we're gonna bring out our secret weapon, President's Choice Extra Rich Hot Chocolate Mix made with real cocoa. So to make this, simply open the bag and then Using our spoon, we will simply stir that around. And we'll heat that up a little bit more, and then we will enjoy. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. Nice and drinkable. Look at that. You can get some silicone hot lips for these cups, and they just go right over the lip of the cup, and I guess they protect your lips against getting burnt, but these cups cool down pretty quick, so the liquid will always be hotter than the metal, I find. But if you would like to get some of those, we'd understand. Anyways, check it out. This is their snow melt test with the Snow Peak Trek Titanium 700 mug and Emberlit Fire Ant Titanium. And we achieved almost a 50% snow melt ratio today, but usually and typically we got 7.7 to 1 before, but you could expect maybe about 10 to 1. So probably typically, at least according to the internet. But in my test, 7 to 1 and close to 50% return on this test. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.